Are you planning on buying a home this year in Metro Detroit, Michigan, where the market is as hot as ever, but have heard all the horror stories about multiple offer situations and you're just afraid you might not be able to compete? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the top strategies that I use with my clients in order for them to end up the winning bidders. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, Nick Selski here with Community Choice Realty right here in Metro Detroit, Michigan. Now, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is about playing, staying, and living in a Metro Detroit area, then make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell to make sure you get notified every single time I upload a new video. And honestly, I get so many people calling me about relocating to the area. I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about possibly moving to the Metro Detroit, Michigan area, then make sure to reach out to me, whether it's phone call, text message, or email. However you want to get a hold of me, just know that I've got your back when it comes to moving to the Metro Detroit area. All right, so I'm sure by now you've heard how crazy the real estate market is and how homes are just absolutely flying off the market, right? And it's because of this huge shortage, this huge demand that has been created, and there's just not enough houses out there. So let's jump in and talk about the first tip. If you're ever caught in a multiple offer situation, automatically you have to offer at minimum over asking price. Now, how much? That is going to be completely up to you, but as of right now, the clients that are ending up winning most of their bids, at least a third of the time when we submit offers, are offering at least 5% above asking price. Now, whether that's something that you can swing or not is going to be completely up to you and your loan officer, because they're the ones that ultimately know your financial situation and you know how much you can afford per month to actually have a comfortable payment. So tip number one, offer over asking price. All right, tip number two for getting your offer selected in a multiple offer situation. And that tip is going to be not to have a contingency on the sale of your current home in order to buy a new one. Now, if I'm a seller and I see an offer come in with a contingency that the buyer has to sell their current home in order to buy my home, that's going to make me a little bit worried, especially in a multiple offer situation. That's going to be less attractive than a lot of other offers. And why is that? Because you're saying that you have to sell your home and use the finances to purchase this home, but your offer is now relying on you successfully closing on the sale of your home. So if something happens and that deal doesn't go through, that ruins my plans as a seller of a house, right? And now that kills my deal with you unless you get another buyer real quick and you have to start the process all over again. So for me as a seller, that would tell me that, okay, there's a risk here involved. So that is going to be potentially your offer not closing and ruining my plans. And that's the last thing that any seller wants to deal with, especially in a multiple offer situation. All right, so tip number three is going to be for all the FHA buyers out there, because I know a lot of you are struggling right now in this market with the multiple offers. So if you are an FHA buyer and you get caught in a multiple offer situation, don't lose hope. My advice to you is when you have the FHA addendum filled out, and that's the addendum that explains any costs that are covered by the buyer or the seller, if anything arises, such as reinspection fees or say any kind of repairs that might need to be done because of a FHA inspection, you as the buyer should cover those costs in the multiple offer situation. A lot of times if there's no, if there aren't multiple offers, we try to negotiate the seller to cover some of those costs. But in this case, you're going to want to make sure that the seller is not covering any of those costs to make your offer stand out more. All right, so this actually brings me to tip number four. So tip number four is going to be, if you have the means and you're able to, go conventional with the financing. Get yourself a conventional loan. If the down payment is an issue, there's plenty of programs out there that offer less than 5% down, such as 3% down is the lowest I've seen for a conventional loan. Now, definitely you have to talk to your lender, whoever that might be, about getting you approved for that. But a conventional approval is going to be much stronger than FHA approval. And that's because FHA loans, a lot of times there's going to be inspections involved that could really, kill a deal. And so if I'm a seller and a seller's agent, what we're looking for is the strongest possible offer when it comes to the financing. And if I have a conventional offer going up against an FHA offer, then majority of the time that conventional offer is going to get selected just for the sheer fact that it's going to be less of a hassle to go through it, and there's going to be less things that could potentially pop up that could kill the deal. All right, so tip number 5 for getting your offer selected in a multiple offer situation is do not at all ask for concessions. Now, what are concessions? Seller concessions are essentially a buyer asking the seller to give some of the seller's proceeds from the sale of their home to the buyer in order to offset some of the closing costs that the buyer might have. Now, obviously, when you hear that, you understand that that's going to be less attractive to a seller, especially in a multiple offer situation. So if you have to have concessions, then just know that it's not entirely impossible to have your offer selected, but just know that you're going to have a little bit more of a difficult time if you need them. All right, tip number 6 is going to be buy with cash. So obviously cash is king. We've all heard that. And in this situation, it's true, especially in a multiple offer situation, right? Now, why is that? Because cash deals always close faster. They're not contingent on any kind of financing, and there's no appraisal that needs to be done. So if you have a cash offer, just know that your odds are significantly going to be increased in getting your offer accepted. Number 7 has been a big difference maker for me in some of the deals that I write for my clients, and that's to offer free occupancy to the sellers. So what happens in this situation? Normally, if a seller is asking for a certain amount of days, say 30 days to stay in the home after the closing happens, what they do is they have to pay the buyer rent for that month, right? So in this situation, you're offering them that 30 days, but you're not charging any rent. So that puts less pressure on the sellers to get out of there, because they, in the back of their minds, they know that they have to rush because every day they're being charged for staying there. So if you're able to take that financial burden or that stress away from the seller, that's going to make your offer stand out much more and increase your odds of getting your offer accepted in a multiple offer situation. All right, so tip number 8 has been a big contributor to a lot of deals getting accepted nowadays with multiple offer situations, and we've been seeing a lot of this one lately, and that is the appraisal gap coverage. So what does that mean? Say, for example, you're buying a home for $300,000. You're going to get that home appraised, and say the appraisal comes in at $290,000. So there's that $10,000 gap, right? So what are the options in this situation? Normally, the seller is going to get asked to either come down to meet that $290,000 appraised value and bring that purchase price down, which means they lose out on that $10,000. Or you as the buyer, you might decide that you're going to back out because, in this case, you're not going to be able to secure the financing because the lender is not going to give you money for it. The other option is, you guys can meet somewhere in the middle. But if you're in a multiple offer situation, then the best thing to do is to guarantee that you would cover a certain amount above the appraised value if the house does not appraise for the purchase price. Now, if I'm a seller and I see that gives me a sense of relief, especially in this hot market when so many offers are being written above asking price. There's always going to be that risk that the home might not appraise, and we've had these issues before in the past, and there's always going to be these issues, right? So the best thing to do is to tell the seller, hey, Mr. Seller, we are going to pay above asking price for your home, and if the home does not appraise, we're going to cover that gap or a good portion of that gap so to make sure that our deal goes through. Now, if a seller sees that, they're going to have a pretty easy time selecting your offer. Let's talk about tip number 9 real quick, and that's going to be to put down more money for the down payment. Now, what does a larger down payment have to do with, getting your offer selected in a multiple offer situation? Well, I'll tell you, if I'm a seller and a seller's agent, and I see that a offer comes in and the down payment is significantly larger or well above the minimum requirement, then that tells me that we have a strong buyer. And that's going to increase your odds of getting your offer accepted, because now that's telling me that, okay, so instead of, say, 5% being put down for a conventional loan, for example, the person is putting down 20 or more percent, then we know that that buyer has money. And if anything happens, say there's an issue with the appraisal, that, the buyer's in pretty good shape financially to possibly cover those, certain things and to make sure that the sale goes through. So if you're able to and you have the means, try putting down a larger down payment, and in the end it's only going to help you because your payments are going to be much smaller monthly, and it's going to make the seller realize that you are in a very, very good position to make sure that that deal actually closes. All right, tip number 10 is probably not going to be a popular one, but it's one that could definitely help you get your offer selected in a multiple offer situation, and that is to offer a non-refundable deposit. So usually when we have real estate transactions, we offer an earnest money deposit, and what that shows the seller is that you've got some skin in the game, because we all know that there's a chance that if you get cold feet in the end, or something happens and you back out of the deal, you have the potential of losing that deposit. But when you make that deposit non-refundable, you are essentially betting on yourself, and you're showing the seller that you're confident that your deal is going to close with that seller. And if I'm a seller and I see that, you better believe that I'm going to give your deal and your offer a strong, strong consideration here, because knowing that anything can happen in a deal to make it fall apart, and if that does happen, that money is going to be, is going to come to me as a seller. That's going to really make me want to accept your offer. All right, so to quickly recap this video, we talked about some of the top things that I have some of my clients do in order to make sure that their offers are selected in a multiple offer situation in this crazy real estate market in Metro Detroit, Michigan. Now, obviously, if you're trying to find that perfect area here, or you're looking to relocate to the Metro Detroit area, feel free to give me a call, send me a text, or send me an email. However you want to get a hold of me, just know that I've got your back when it comes to moving to the Metro Detroit, Michigan area. Also, if you're interested in an actual checklist of some of the things that we covered today and some of those tips, as well as some additional tips that I didn't go over today, there's going to be a link in the description below. So make sure you click that and check it out. And until the next video, I'll catch you guys later.